think the honorable thing for our species to do is deny our programming. Stop reproducing. Walk hand in hand into extinction. One last midnight, brothers and sisters opting out of a raw deal.
Do not trust any friends or family members. I repeat, do not trust friends.
Anything in the news lately? Anything at all about rich fuck?
I have seen one thing. There was a rich fuck who decided to give up his fortune, so that because his theory was, anybody can make $1 million in a year, no problem. So he was a YouTube influencer, and gave up his fortune, started in a van, homeless, whatever. Was gonna hustle his way to $1 million, but had to quit tragically after 10 months.
Ooh.
You know why?
Technically too, we don't actually know what his startup capital was, because obviously if you start with nothing, you'll probably just die in the street. So clearly he brought some money with him.
He had a van at least. I mean, like, we can't expect someone to just be thrown into a state of nature. Like that's maybe a too high a bar, but
no, I don't believe you did at all. Yeah, that was like
well, my big question was, I think the big thing was that he ended his 10-month reign of awesomeness with 60 G's or some shit, right? So like my big question is, like, did he like have like 50 or 60 G's to start with?
I have to believe that's probably true.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that.
So he gets sick. He says like he
says so.
And then also he says like his father had colon cancer, and like honestly, maybe that's true and maybe it's sad, but on the other hand, it's also kind of funny because just the fucking confused ambition of it all, like the thought that you could truly hustle your way to $1 million within a year, like starting with nothing, like.
Well, I like the irony too of like being like, I command the world. And then being like, oh, I got sick and fucking colon cancer, my dad, and it's like, no, you don't control your fucking environment. Your environment has a dramatic impact on whether or not you can access funds, access jobs. You know what I mean? Like that's there's an entitlement, and there's just like a total fucking idiocy behind that mindset.
Almost like being poor and stressed and sick can have an impact on your well-being.
Yeah, that was my first thought. It was like after 10 months I got sick, and I was like, of course you did, man. You're living on the edge. Like he was like living in it like briefly in a mansion or something, that he was like an extra, maybe not a mansion, but like an extra room. Or I meant to watch the video to get a sense of what this guy got up to, but I just remember that his starting point is he started selling furniture online somehow.
You know what that goes back to too? That goes back to like back in this was like early internet days, and there was like the first YouTube videos that would start like monetizing with ad space, and there's the guy that's like, I started with a fucking pen, and now I'm a millionaire. And he's
the paperclip challenges,
I sold the pen and got a fucking better pen, and I sold the better pen and got a notepad. I sold the notepad and got a sick coffee mug. I sold that and got a, all the way to a snowmobile.
Yeah.
And then it's the dumbest fucking thing. Like, it's again, it's a narrative that.
It is, yeah, no, like it's like that's one of the things that drew me to this story, and I was like, God, I'd really want to talk about that, because like it's infuriating, but it's also, you get the joy of what, I don't know, comeuppance, I think that's another word that I'm looking for, but
it's that thing that they all believe that it's their unique skills that have put them into this position, and not the sort of head start that they've gotten, or like the just the luck of being who they are.
There's also like the bootlickiness of it, like the rich bootlicking thing, where it's like, you're not hustling hard enough.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like anyone can hustle their way to wealth, fame, and an excellent job. And
if you don't have bad enough.
If you don't have the guts, and it's like there's a guy with a beat up trick pickup truck on steroids telling you this after getting a fucking half-cocked plumbing job, talking conservative shit online.
That's a very specific description.
Yeah. I don't know anyone like that. And then,
Yeah.
if you're out there,
But I
fuck
felt
you.
it. Yeah, no, I felt you'd drawn something in the round right there. Like I saw
No,
that.
I didn't. I don't know anybody like that, but I just.
You
there
do.
is a guy out there kicking sand right now. Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking extinction
Call it
agenda.
out.
Yeah.
Fucking lefty.
Yeah. The plumbing job was good. Prick.
Yeah. Pussy.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's like, yeah, and it's like it's part of a larger ideology about like what like economic man and like the rational, because he calls himself an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur, and that's like a title for someone who just like exactly the sort of person we're talking about. Like
It's like you inherited a trust fund and you have so much money that you can't fail with it. So when you go into business, despite the fact that you have no business acumen or real ability to even generate any income, you can't fail because of your starting point. Like Kim Kardashian.
There you go. Or yeah, name your person. Yeah,
fuck you, Kim Kardashian.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, let's be just slightly fair just for a second.
Okay.
It's possibly, let's say he had $60,000 to start with, or even $100,000 to start with. Maybe he could have like got $1 million. I guess like if he just focused all of his time over the period of a year to the exclusion of all else, using that like that startup capital or whatever, maybe, but to start with nothing, theoretically in principle, it's neither surprising. Well, it's not surprising that he didn't make it. What's surprising and hilarious is that he thought he could.
Well, you know what? He has $60,000 now. Round 2.
There we go. Round 2. That's
2025.
And I think the funny thing too is like when people talk shit like that, there's also like there's gas, there's transit, there's car insurance, there's utility bills, there's rent, there's food, there's medical expenses, and your 60,000 is zero. It's nothing. It doesn't equal anything. It equals you existing for a year. So it's like, you can talk shit all you want, but unless you have the means to like have all of those things taken care of while you build funds, which is what a lot of these fucking people have. They have the starting point to literally not take care of any basic needs themselves.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, capital, like, or trust fund or inheritance. And when you have that, you can't fail. I shouldn't say that. You can fail. But it's a lot fucking harder than it would be for anyone else. So I sent you guys that funny Instagram one too that I thought was great with that guy from Fox talking about McDonald's incomes and how and he's like, what do these fucking guys make? $20 an hour? What is that? 50,000 a year? So 2 McDonald's employees dating make $100,000 a year, and the guy, whatever the fucking interviewer guy's just like, yeah, like we're like fucking mental defective. Not even with our weak ass Canadian dollar does anybody make $50,000 at McDonald's. First of all, and second of all, to attribute that to being the direct reason that life inflates is just amazing.
Yeah,
just an amazing conservative rich standpoint.
Yeah.
If we weren't paying these pieces of shit burger flippers fair wages, then we wouldn't have to deal with inflation.
Yeah, but the thing, like, what you they don't pay a fair wage. Like, what did we ended up looking it up? It's like median income for McDonald's.
It's like
32K.
It's like 30 something. Yeah, 32,000, which is 18% below the median income in Canada. So McDonald's CEO, despite having year over year, actually from COVID to 2020, his income rose 100% from 10 million annually to like 20 million, which is awesome considering no normal workers' wages usually increase more than 2%. And yeah, and they're paying them about 20% below the median average, which is just awesome. Like just the absolute piece of, like, I think maybe the only other company that's shitty could be maybe Walmart.
Yeah. Every fucking one of them is Daniel Day-Lewis and There Will Be Blood. You know, like it's the same milkshake. They're just sucking it up, you know, and blaming these idiots.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So that was all right. So that I remember we were also supposed to I guess we were going to talk a little Carter Burke because it's Aliens Day or something like that.
Oh yeah, it's 426.
Why is it Aliens Day? What's special?
Because they landed on the planet LV 426.
Oh shit! Of course. Okay.
Yeah. There wasn't anything exciting. Actually, one little exciting thing happened, which you guys probably have more access to than me. The original 1979 Alien went back into mainstream theaters today.
Oh, I did hear that.
Which is cool.
Okay.
You know, if you want to treat yourself to that, it's playing all weekend.
Oh fuck. Okay, so
It's not a bad idea.
I already got a date though. I already got a thing I'm doing. They put all the Kubrick movies back in theaters, and so I'm gonna go see Eyes Wide Shut tomorrow. It's gonna be a little treat for myself.
Oh, that is nice. Yeah, do a double feature, bro.
Yeah, I see it here too. Alien 45th anniversary. God damn it! They didn't advertise this ahead of time. Shit.
Yeah, they don't. Alien Day is like a fringe thing, and one year it was awesome. About 4 years ago, all this shit happened, and then after that, nearly nothing happens on Alien Day. There's like a few avid fans out there that, you know, post artwork or whatever. I think Fede Alvarez from the new Alien movie posted them. They have like remote control face huggers that basically are attached to like Tycho, you know, like a little hand remote, like almost like a little remote control car, basically.
Yep.
And he was like basically zooming a face hugger around a room on Twitter. That was pretty funny.
Nice.
But that's the closest thing we got to anything awesome on Alien Day.
That's too bad. I mean, every day is Alien Day, if we're honest. So
it's true. For me, it is anyway.
There's always a face hugger driving around in my heart. Okay, so Extinction Agenda with James.
Oh, James, yeah.
And Chris.
And today on the Extinction Agenda, we're going to talk about Ed Piskor. It's been a little while since Ed Piskor, who left the Mortal Coil on April 1st. You know, all the controversy that surrounded that. It's been almost a month, so I think it's a little safe to come out without fear of entering into some sort of like gross element of this fucking tragedy. And we're gonna talk about Ed Piskor and X-Men Grand Design, because we're a comics related podcast. I don't want to read Hip Hop Family Tree. I don't want to read Red Room. I want to read about the X-Men, and I want to know what Ed Piskor went and did as a cartoonist working on this material.
I think it's too. We can also clarify that we're not like predatory scrunging around for clickbait. We don't have ads, and our podcast costs us money. So no worries there, guys.
Yeah, no, we're just your friendly neighborhood garage band, you know, just talking.
We're doing it for the love of the game. You know?
Yeah. So, old Ed, you know, like he passed. What's the controversy surrounding it is you know, like the accusation is that cancel culture murdered old Ed Piskor. There was revelations that he had been chatting with a 17-year-old girl. Being a fucking creep. And then some people came out of the woodwork. There's some names attached. I don't think it's relevant though.
No, it doesn't. You can look them up, but I don't. Pretty sure those poor girls had to delete all their social media and so on and so forth anyway. So
yeah, but there was some accusations that he had I'll in exchange for favors, I'll get you some connections in the comics industry or something like that. And Piskor's not he had the YouTube channel, Cartoonist Kayfabe. He's got some degree of success, like he's starting to sort of he's a New York Times bestseller, he's Fantagraphics books, like he's one of the best-selling producers that they have. Marvel's working with him on an X-Men Grand Design. He's got a show coming up. He's is about to sell a book to Abrams, and but that said, that's not power in the industry. It's not like this guy's Harvey Weinstein. Like he's not gonna hook you up if you give him a blowjob.
No, this guy was dealing with fives of thousands.
Yes. Yeah. There we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Anybody listening to this probably already knows, but as the society came down on him for these indiscretion, and he couldn't. I don't. He commits suicide as a consequence.
Yeah, well, and obviously, I think we had our own side conversations about this too, and I think the gist of it is that clearly he's struggling with mental health issues, because one doesn't take their own lives usually because of online bullying, especially as an adult. That's an oddity. So that's obviously he was battling some demons as well, but definitely this took a toll on. I think he had a certain contract maybe dropped, and he was running into a buzzsaw because of this the 17-year-old girl, and then obviously the internet's also provided their own information as well. Well, I think one of the funnier things that I read was that since age of consent is 16, he actually wasn't grooming. He was just a shitty person.
Oh no.
And it's well, yeah, that's one way to take it. That's one road to go down. Road to go down, So that's interesting. And then the other thing I read was that this is, in addition to being rumors, this is hearsay.
Sure.
This one. So the other woman that accused him of blowjobs for access to editor or whatever apparently was caught by her spouse cheating with Ed Piskor, and decided that sexual harassment was the route she was going to take, even though she was in a sort of a consensual side affair with him.
Oh, that's interesting.
That was confirmed by Twitter.
Okay. You know what really did it? I think though, because I'm watching Action News 4 from Pittsburgh. Here's the headline. It's the news reporter is right now outside of Ed Piskor's family's home, hounding his father about Pittsburgh Cultural Trust postpones Ed Piskor exhibit and amid sexual misconduct allegations. Like they're treating him like Hannibal fucking Lecter.
Yeah, that's shitty.
Yeah, and that's to my mind that you can turn off the internet, but when people are hounding your fucking family and you've lost your job and your best friend just turned your fucking back on their back on you like that, or I don't know if they were best friends, but his coworker over at Cartoonist Kayfabe, Jim Rugg, he's like, nope, no relationship with this guy anymore. I'm out, and so, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that this necessarily leads to suicide, but it certainly makes me sympathetic to anyone. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, those are some heavy hits. And the funny thing too would be that nothing happened. This was the court of internet and clickbait news opinion is what this guy suffered from. Nothing happened. Even the screenshot, the screenshot that this kid shared was doctored. It was her no one will ever see the extent of that conversation. No one will ever see the sexual content that if there was any sexual content, they'll see a vetted series of things said that were creepy. At best, that there was no implied sex, there's no proof of sex, there's no blood on her hands to say, like, did she slide into his DMs proposing sex, or proposing sexual encounters, or like what do like reciprocating dirty messages back and forth, like
And
that
I don't think those are the accusations, really.
that's scrubbed out of it, right? So you don't get anything, so you just get this one thing that gets dropped, and then for whatever reason, I guess the Pittsburgh News thought, hey man, this is hot off the fucking presses.
Well, it's because of the cultural trust. Like, he had a show that was set to go in Pittsburgh, and it got canceled. That's what's prompted all this,
Which is a fair consequence of like this coming out, and like it was postponed. Like that's all that they said.
Postpones. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Trust post. That's code for, like, we're just gonna cancel you.
Sure.
Not,
yeah.
But I mean,
we'll never get back to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So rewind, because Chris, I heard you trying to say this is like the girl. Let's call her Molly, so that there's separately. I mean, that is her first name. Even what she shared isn't sexual. I mean, if there's implied, like, you could stay over here, you're not a narc, are you, or something like that. You're not a snitch,
Yeah, but I don't think that wasn't even according to Ed's defamatory suicide note, which he basically attempted to end these two ladies' careers and access to social media in one fell swoop with his suicide note, which is an interesting, very interesting thing to do that I've never seen before. But basically, like, this, I don't know, this whole take that he took was implying that he stated that you're not a snitch because he provided an image of something that was going to get published because they were sharing artwork. So like, when taken out of context, looks like a creepy statement, could have just been a goof around, Yeah. And that's something that cannot be proven.
That's the thing. I think there's like a lot of information between the cracks that, like, I think that this whole thing about this is that there's so much that would have to be said and kind of shown and proven. Like, you'd kind of need the full context of the statements to really judge what's going on. Like, and to be very clear, I think women have absolutely every right to, broadcast information about men that they think are creeps, to warn other women, have at it. Like, that's I think she's done nothing wrong. Sort of what's happened in the gaps is like just people piling on and taking things further, and kind of, just like running wild with implications that seems, and I think probably on both sides, because if you look at all the tweets that she writes, like, there's sort of an escalating, like, tone to it too. And there are, I can't necessarily take Ed Piskor's suicide note as, he's defending his reputation. Like, I don't know, I take it at face value, either. I can't give him authority just because he took the drastic action, which, it's really tragic. But one thing he doesn't address, for example, like, she says in her text, like, he sent her a picture of herself in a schoolgirl uniform, calling her a cute nerdy girl. Like, that's not something you do to a 17-year-old girl. That's not a way to interact with somebody whose art you appreciate. Like, that you could back the best case scenario, you discover someone is like underage and you're complimenting their art, you just graciously back out of that. Like, figure out a way to, like, end this conversation.
Yeah. And was that established, that he was 100% aware she was a high schooler?
That it does seem to be. And I do, like, I've just looked at his note before, because I just wanted to refresh myself, and there is a sense of shame. He basically says, like, I shouldn't have continued talking to Molly D. Yeah,
you never get the I didn't know like that. Yeah. That defense never came up.
It's the other woman who's like, he's like, she pushed it into the multiple woman territory, and that was uncalled for. Like, I didn't do any of this shit with that other girl. So, like, and again, who knows the full story there? Like, there's a lot that would need to come out. And I think one big lesson is, like, I mean, it's never gonna happen, but fucking, like, slow down, reserve judgment, like, wait for facts to come out.
Well, this is a sort of a new age, and this is like, the funny thing is too, I feel like the Me Too thing has even actually lost steam and power in comparison to its initial onset. But this still shows the ability of like this girl chimed in on Twitter. Now Ed Piskor is a whatever. I'm gonna call him a pseudo celebrity. Sure. Now someone else that feels like maybe they had an affair with him and was slighted or was angry, like you can just come out and say this guy's a pervert. I'm corroborating this, and
I do have questions
this
about
guy's
that one,
life is over. That's insane that's allowed.
She should be, that's true.
There are so many people
totally
like
shamed.
I can think of bad breakups. I know of bad breakups from many people that I know, and I could think of people that would be more than comfortable coming out with a flagrant lie because of hurt feelings and just say that guy's a fucking creep, and just be more than happy to watch them circle the fucking drain.
Even put it this way too, like, so let's say that everything is true, that like he did like offer to exchange information for a blowjob. That's fucking creepy. That would never occur to me to do to somebody. It's also not necessarily, he doesn't have to give you information or access to an editor or an agent or whatever either. Like it's not on the same level as the accusations from the initial person. It's just like, this guy sucks. Like that's for sure.
I think that's what frustrates me. What gets like this is a rare instance where like I actually kind of gave a shit. Actually, I didn't kind of give a shit. I give a shit, and I still give a shit. And I think what is motivating it is two things. That suicide note. That's one thing, and then two, but mostly because like I'm having troubles finding an equivalence between his a crime. We'll call it not a crime. It's not obviously a crime, but like between the amount of damage that he allegedly did or supposedly did or whatever, and the outcome with respect to his life, like no one actually got hurt.
Yeah.
He was creepy on the internet. Like, fuck, get in line. Like there's so much. That's what the internet is, man. It's fucking creeps all the way down, and all of a sudden, like, and like for whatever reason. Not for whatever reason, just because it's tangential to the the Me Too movement or to incidences. It's not an attempt to wield one's power over others theoretically, but it is not like you compare it to something. I'll use the extreme example of like Harvey Weinstein, and getting to your point, James, about Me Too losing steam. He was just recently like they're going to have a new trial because his lawyers managed to like get the whole thing. Oh, it looks like we did a bad job. But that's an individual in a real position of power, manipulating humans, abusing that power. That's the most extreme example. But I mean, like Ed can't do that. Like
but
done that.
I'm with her on the sense that like you're young, impressionable, and then someone who has ins and contacts in the industry is like, I can connect you to. I have a career that's this successful, like doing this sort of like underground stuff, and like that's got to be interesting to anybody. Like it's not influence.
And then so here's another thing. I mean, this isn't one of the things that's been keeping it on my mind, but I guess like one of the reasons one becomes an artist is as a man is to pick up chicks. I that's a major motivating factor
for sure
among rock stars and artists and performers and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, he's being a creep. Like, I want to be super clear about that. That's fucking creepy behavior. He's being a fucking creep, and it doesn't surprise me. He looks like a creep. It doesn't surprise me at all. If you look at that Red Room book, like, what the fuck?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's some real questionable stuff that he's putting out. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's a fucking creep, a weirdo creep, but like, but that's it, man. Like, that's it. And I just found it very difficult to understand why everybody came down on him. Like, society ended up coming down on him like a ton of bricks. Like, why was the Pittsburgh fucking news reporters showing up at his dad's house? Like, that hasn't happened with it. That didn't happen with Ethan Van Sciver. Not that he was sexually improper or anything. I'm trying to think of someone who, like, I don't know. There's lots of sexual improprieties in comics. Brian Wood, for instance. Like, nobody showed up at his parents' fucking house.
Yeah. Two things,
Yeah.
I guess. Like there's one, it's like there is sort of like a moral panic that takes over basically.
Yeah.
And then I found this article like just by coincidence. It was on the CBC, and it was talking about how like TikTok is basically designed to like foster outrage and the structure of it and all this stuff. And they were basically just like looking at how like these wave of reactions, sometimes it's like it becomes more about the people who have gotten away with it, that so like it doesn't really matter the extent of what the person's done, because the response to the outrage, the urge to like lash out and like heap on the person, is sort of like putting like everyone's outrage for every crime, everyone who gets away. Yeah, and I could see like that the feeding into it.
Yeah, it's a mess, and it like some of the people. So there's been a couple reactions to this. Let's put them in the camp of maybe three camps. The responsible, we wish Ed Piskor's family the best. This has been a tragedy. No one was right. This is fucked. And then you got your Rob Liefeld, who's kind of in the middle. We need to be better. We need to be better. No more bullying and harassment online. That's not the lesson of this, Rob.
Well, yeah, but you know what? I listened to his podcast, and like he has like a personal sense of mentorship, and I give him a pass on some of that stuff, because like it's sort of recollection of his memories of this guy and appreciation of the art and all that. Yeah. But yeah, exactly. It veered far from the actual facts of the case. We'll say that.
Well, yeah, that's my thing too. Oh, sorry. No, I want to hear the third one.
Oh, the third one. The third one
is far right.
Yeah, it's the Ethan Van Skyvers. Sorry, that's why his name was on my lips. And those pricks who like the cancel culture, rabid, like the things they say. Like I never went down that little rabbit hole about how they interpret cancel culture as, and like the quote unquote whisper network.
Yes.
Yeah, like it's all part of like literally conspiratorial.
Did you pull that quote that I sent? Like there's one. I think we both listened to that cancel culture special by these comics.
I think I watched because
Yeah, and so like the one thing he said that just fascinated me, and this is a direct quote. The thing that happens after cancel culture is that they don't let you have your victimhood. They say it didn't happen because we did this to you. You deserved it, and it never happened anyway. They gaslight you. Like that's an amazing perspective. Not that you like have no sense of remorse, or that your reactions are fueling the fire, or that you just don't get it. It's just like, no, it's like people are gaslighting you. You're actually not a bad person.
Yeah, and even as he's like, I don't really want to focus on this too much, but the like he was talking about. Okay, so fine, Van Skyver, he's just a right wing shithead and one of those comics gate guys, and like the cancellation of him is very different than the cancellation of Ed Piskor or someone else who's engaged in sexual impropriety. But his oh shit, I think I lost my train of thought though. Shit, no. Oh yeah, okay. So he was saying that people were calling me a white nationalist, and I was like, I'm never a white nationalist. And then it, like smash cut to like a minute later, and he's like, but someone who reached out to me was like Vox Day, and like he writes all these books about social justice warriors, and I read them all, and I talk, and I'm just like, dude, you're telling on yourself. Well, you're like, I don't think I don't obviously I identify with that moniker, but that doesn't mean like it doesn't fit. Anyway, that's super tangential. But these guys, they really like Ed Piskor's death was red meat for these fucking people.
Yeah.
And it just like they really made like there's a lot of videos. Getting back to what you were saying, James, about predatory follow-ups on this, like.
Well, and and I think that's the hardest part. Sorry, is that like you were saying, James, is like I know, and I feel like I'm always like when I talk about this too. I feel like I lean in toward Ed to maybe in a way that I shouldn't, because I don't have facts. But if I even if I take what we have and I say the worst of everything that Ed's accused of is true, there's still not a definitive crime. period. Sorry.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
Yeah.
And then if I take the opposite side of the scenario and I say, this is all bullshit and Ed's suicide note is fucking canon or whatever, then, well, wow, then you have a nightmarish case of these women getting away with like a horrific online bullying scenario. So it's hard not to say that you can take this whole situation and to me it's hard to run down the middle with it and say, look, hey, whoa, two sides of something, because it's not. It leans in toward a pretty shitty situation and a tragedy that's really not not exactly his doing, like you said. Like, we're talking about a guy that was creepy, and outside of being creepy, I can't pin down something that I can say is a nightmarish scenario. Maybe there's I'm not saying there's not potential for a nightmarish scenario or even a crime. But that's just not there.
Yeah, I get it. No, I really get it. And that's the thing that leads me, like, it impassions me. Like, I continue to feel about this story because it just feels so like confused and on all fronts, and like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, why did this happen?
The fact that it happens is unnecessary.
Yeah. And like, yeah, he didn't need to die as like obviously this deeper things were at play there for him to have taken that route. But like you were saying, James,
definitely too, like, for the aesthetic of a company though, also, even a small company, if one was accused of these creepy internet things, I would expect you to lose your job. I would expect you to lose, if you have online presence, there's some things you're going to have to sacrifice if you decide to make creepy choices. And the logic dictates, if your money is made online through public media and through public eye and through social media, that your caution needs to be escalated even further beyond a cautious person's normal, and his wasn't. His sense of that wasn't there. And, regardless of whether or not he was still with us or these things were true or not true, even if he was able to prove that they were not true, he would likely still not be able to continue with his work because of the choices he made. So, like, I mean, that, there's that too. So
that was a really like elegant logic tree presentation. I was like, everything's branching off and like even actually, you know what though, like, I think I can sign off on that.
The one thing I wanted to say going forward is, like, and just looking at going forward, is that like, I wouldn't even want to talk about this because I do look at it as sort of like a tragedy for his family and that sort of thing. But the rallying cry is already being taken up. Like, the internet bullies killed me from his note. And I think that's something to watch going forward, because I do think it's already becoming this sort of like something to throw in people's faces if they. And I do think that there's nothing wrong with that initial accusation. Like, if that was her experience and like she's warning people, have at it. Like, those are the sorts of things that need to be put out there. That's fine. But I think that act is being conflated with bullying, and that's going to be a signal for, like, you shouldn't talk about these things. Like, there's, you should be silent about stuff like that, because, like, think about what could happen.
That's a good point. Yeah,
that's true too. Same breath, if the two women in this scenario are working in social media and comics and relying on, their income stream to come from that also, when you go out and you make an accusation without it being via a police report with valid evidence, and you decide to take your case into the court of public opinion and the court of social media, also be prepared to lose your standing and job because fuck you.
I think that's the wrong standard to adhere to in this particular. He's not accused of rape though. No, she just said like I was 17 and he was creepy as fuck. And then some other girl was like, yeah, he said I should have a blowjob. None of those things are crimes. Like they could never come forward in the court of law to bring these things forward. These are social issues. Like how does society deal with a creep? Socially. Right? They isolate the creep. They deal with
shame is is the appropriate punishment, really.
It's true, I guess, but then also like I guess, but I mean like I still feel as though there is a fear in not being cautious, whether male or female or whatever the scenario is. Like when your bread and butter's out there in social media world and you point that fucking dagger at somebody, it
is a dagger.
It's not a good look for conservative employers under any circumstances.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me that a bunch of unprofessional shut-ins acted like unprofessional shut-ins all around. Like that's kind of, they don't like. Yeah, they should be more cautious. Anyone online should be more cautious. We should probably be more cautious. But
maybe.
Well, no, I don't think so. I think we're okay. We're not
too small timey, man.
Yeah, that's right. Small time.
The freedom of small timiness.
Yeah. Takashi Miike over here. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's I don't know. I guess it's a fucking mess. I don't know how much longer we want to like.
I think that's that's.
I think we did. We did. Yeah,
we did it.
We dug up what we wanted to dig up, and took a vague angle on a few things. Let's talk about his fucking awesome book.
Yeah, I don't know. We need to express our feelings, man. That was like that was our Extinction Agenda mourning of a lost soul, and it happens to take that form. At least we got his name right. Oh
shit! Yeah, I mean,
in comparison to the last time we tried to do this, X-Men Grand Design. Okay, so this one published by Marvel Comics between 2017 and 2019. 6 issues per 6 issues. I think they're 40 pages a piece, something like that. And they are published in that the aesthetic. Katie Scully described it as the aesthetic of 1970s comic book offset printing, with artificially weathered paper.
And hey. Do the small issues have the funny paper?
They do. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. No, it was cool. It was good stuff. This was fun coming out. I didn't know what to make of this, but it's kind of saying to me, like, even though I never up until this point really had thought much of Ed Piskor, like I know hip hop family tree amongst individuals who really like hip hop and stuff. They think really well of it. They like that style. But I thought it was kind of a funny idea that someone who specializes in sort of a genealogy of an artistic style would try to like tackle Chris Claremont's entire output essentially. It's more than that, but like ultimately this is his attempt to like, it's a very weird devotional love letter to Chris Claremont in the form of like a giant X-Men comic, and that
like a summary of key events, like almost it's almost like an apology to X-Men fans, to just say like here, let me help you excuse Chris Claremont from this barn burner of a shit show by summarizing the events and making it seem like a cool and purposeful.
Purposeful, yes. I don't know if he ever it ever ends up becoming cool. Maybe let's like first impressions of this book. Like I'd read it obviously before we went to this, so I'm reading it sort of a second time. You guys are coming to it for the first time. General impression, what do you think? I know, James, you already kind of said a little bit of it, but
Yeah.
My first impression, like honestly, was why are we doing this? Why have a whole retelling of the whole X-Men chronology? But it looks good. It looks cool. Really like the art style. Like it's got there is sort of like a blending of like almost underground sensibility with like these mainstream things. He can do expressions well. I think when Rob Liefeld did his tribute, he used the word textured a lot. Like the art is very textured.
Yeah.
Like it's just like obsessively, and he did every part of it, like the
every part,
lettering, coloring, because he just wanted all that control over it. And I think it's neat. Like there's some really cool panels in this thing. I by the end of it, I did kind of see the value of having that, and like I think watching X-Men 97 concurrently, I was like, oh, like yeah, I know where this arc is coming from now. Like I understand, what Forge is up to and like all this stuff.
the
So
adversary and
yeah,
stuff. Oh, that's funny. Okay, yeah. You've read Claremont's X-Men run though? Have you?
I've read much of it, but not
Okay.
all of it. We both of us like 10 years ago decided we were going to try to read like all of the X-Men, which was insane, or at least like the main line. And I got through the shitty Stan Lee shit. Like this is one thing that makes clear to me this series is like just how bad the Stan Lee era is. It's just a shit show. And then the value of Claremont's, despite how wordy it is, and that's why I stopped. It's just like I'll pick this up again some other time. But like when you kind of streamline it, it's just so much better. Like he's got the soap opera angle. He knows how to like raise the stakes. Like there's cool stuff happening.
Yeah, that was the early bits really. I think that's why I stuck with it, because I think the first two issues, which do summarize like your Stan Lee, Roy Thomas, I don't know who else the fuck was writing X-Men at this time, like in the early days. Like some of the Claremont stuff is being inserted into the past, and then some of it is just retellings of the old stories. And yeah, like I think what I liked about it is that he took the Roy Thomas and Stan Lee stuff and he made it part of Claremont's thing. Because that's where the big break is.
Yeah, because the Phoenix becomes almost a structuring device where like it's headed towards Earth the whole time.
Yeah. And actually, and here's the thing that, like, Chris, your question about like why, reading it the first time, it was coming out sort of monthly, intermittently. I didn't have a good grasp of like the entire like the feeling of it throughout. I just thought it was kind of cool. It was like a fun little encyclopedia of stories that I had read. And like, oh, it's kind of cool how he makes the change and stuff. But reading it through the second time, I'm like there's not really much heart in any of this. It is an encyclopedia of the stuff that happened, sort of graphically illustrated, but there's no real emotional through line.
No, this happened and that happened and this happened and that happened.
Yeah, and I think there's a missed opportunity with the Phoenix thing to create like a full-on framing device. It's like he has two framing devices that he never melds together. The first one being Phoenix, and the second one the lead up to Days of Future Past. It couldn't have been too hard to mix those two together somehow, but it would have deviated too much, I think, from the grand design, right? Like the original material. Which is kind of
Yeah, you alluded to this too, being like a little like that he did make a sway from delivering the exact series of events. Like there is some creativity to what he's doing. His panel designs are just amazing, clean. The artwork's just like something to behold. I actually bought these. I bought the big issues. I looked at it a little bit on our little book rental app, and then I thought, you know what, that looks fucking great. So I got them on sale and thought, hey, why not pick them up for real?
Yeah, if I didn't have these in like already, I would get the larger versions, because I want to see this stuff. Like I love the coloring in this. Every once in a while, like he uses these brilliant whites. Like the paper is so faded that when he employs white, it really pops in a way that a regular comic can't actually affect. and he has just excellent. Um, I'm just repeating myself, but excellent color. I like that most of all.
Yeah, he does some things with powers the odd time as well, like employing that white, or employing like sort of like a psychedelic sort of visual effect.
Yeah.
And it like, because the paper's dark and you're dealing with that sort of like muted washover of color, those events and those like moments on panel are like shocking.
Yeah. And lots of speed lines. Like you see the influence of Liefeld quite a bit, and and Liefeld straight up, derives a lot of his sort of style and form from manga. Like your basic, like, Shonen Jump magazine kind of manga. And so I'm looking at Beast. He's a football player, and he's like about to chase after a goon. Funnily enough, he's wearing a Spider-Man face mask now that I'm looking at it. And yeah, there's a lot of blending of styles, a lot of different ways of depicting all of this. But ultimately, it's very cartoony. And I like the fact that at the beginning he calls himself Ed Piskor, cartoonist. I think that's I don't want to call it an ideological choice, but there's a certain type of comics producer who views the word cartoonist as like, that's what you're supposed to be. I don't work for the man. I'm a cartoonist. I'm not on the industrial line. I do everything. All comes from me, but I do it in a Charlie Brown sort of way. And yeah, it's cool to see that sensibility here.
Yeah, I like the little. He does have some covers and things as well that he adds, and I like the little sort of like information packages at the back, and the one-off issues, sort of like the X-Men #1, and then book 2 has that. I think it has an issue with Krakoa in it.
Well, yeah. Well, Krakoa is like, that's the. That's the original island. That, like, all of this is derived from.
But seeing the old artwork, and seeing where he like drew his like inspiration from for a lot of his artwork and stuff.
I haven't seen the material you're talking about. I'm envisioning what you're talking about now. Like, they did like a side by side. Like, this is the original comic, and this is how Ed depicted it.
Yes. No. Sorry. I in the big collected ones, they actually have like the original issue just at the back, just not really even in association with the book, just like printed on that paper. Yeah. So this is like second Genesis. No, not that one. But yeah, you can go through and you can see like the old artwork just sort of like on that paper.
Oh wow.
Like this one's Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, and that's like just and it's just, I don't know, you can really see like how it relates to like how he wanted to push through his art, and all that, I don't know, it's really eye opening, that's all. To see like where's like so much of his inspiration came from, and in animating facial expressions and action, and his, like, I don't know, his work's just great as cartooning. So
yeah. So one of the things, I don't know if you guys have ever tuned into cartoonist kayfabe, but like that, I didn't have time for it like all the time, because those guys produced a ton of fucking material, but it was always like, they would basically, there's whole episodes devoted to like, here's an issue of X-Men whatever, and here's Jim Lee drawing, and they'll go page by page, just like pointing out the various elements, talking like, that's so fucking cool, and look, I really like how he draws the deltoid here. Like they really get into the art in a way that you tend not to get in criticism, comics criticism. And like, these guys were lovers of, and Ed, and maybe this is yet another thing that makes this more personal, is like, he had an historian sensibility about these things, and he really had a, like, they used to like dramatize court depositions with regarding the McFarlane, Neil Gaiman writes to Miracle Man. There was a trial, and so they read out the whole script. Like they dramatized it as part of the show, and then they have like part 1, part 2,
That's neat.
That's wild. Yeah, they were, and so like that love of comics. Although I think this entire project is really misguided and I don't understand why he did it, but other than love, and just because he could, I guess. But yeah, you see it, and you see that reverence for old comics and the history of comics and all that stuff. And he had like Hip Hop Family Tree is basically like its genealogy, it's a history. And I think that's why this new Red Room book didn't interest me at all, because like I don't care, like he's not a good storyteller.
That's pretty clear.
He's a good stylist.
Yeah, this is painstaking too. Like I just looking at this, it nauseates me sometimes. I'm like, wow, to be combing through these books and be like sort of transcribing this knowledge in sort of and there is a skill behind it, because it's fast, it's concise, you're getting all the major plot points that you need. Because I didn't know a lot of this stuff, and there's no fucking way I'm going back and shoveling through Claremont's shit. Not unless there's at least a sensible arc behind it,
Yeah.
But this gives me a lot more than I previously had in terms of X-Men knowledge, and I tend to think that I have quite a lot just from even secondhand from you guys.
My favorite, go to the first page, and it's the Watcher, and they got the red lines around them, and it's how big is this page? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 panels. Like it's so dense. It's a testament to Ed's ability to have like communicated this much information in such a dense fashion, so clearly. I never really felt lost throughout it. But the first page, you got the Watcher, he's pondering, and then he's looking down at the earth, and then Recorder, I'm ready for you. And it's like, that's fucking Ed Piskor. Like he's pondering all these fucking comics that he's read. And he's coming over and he calls over the Recorder, and like this book is basically his Recorder.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's it's both, it's interesting, it's energetic, but at the same time, who cares? Like this didn't make the X-Men better for me in any way. I was just kind of like, but to hold it to the standard of a drama is maybe inappropriate, because Recorder, I'm ready for you, is the fundamental framing device to all of this. And so we shouldn't be surprised that it just turns into like the Watcher talking to us and just telling us that these things happened and this happened, and that's it.
Yeah. And it's it's a pretty admirable attempt to sort through whatever retcons have happened through Claremont's run and all that. It does come together, because at first I was like, oh, like we're skipping Days of Future Past, weird. But no, that it wraps up. That's the end. Like it kind of diverts into that timeline, which is cool. Like I was actually really like a little bit surprised and really pleased at how elegant that kind of was. Yeah.
There's two major things that he does in order to make that happen, which just, to a purist, to a Chris Claremont purist, I was like, well, what the fuck? Like you're just making stuff up. You're just riffing. And I was like, okay, relax, James. It's fine. That's the point. But first, the Phoenix story, James, I think you and I read that. Maybe we didn't.
We did.
Yeah, okay, yeah, and it was like they get kidnapped by Bolivar Trask, and they fight robot versions of the other X-Men, and like the whole story, and Jean Grey's whole suicide thing it's just depicted all wrong. He just made it up. He just like, this doesn't work, excised out, and I understand why he did it, but it I guess as a nerd, I found myself sort of like, no, that doesn't work. And then the whole dropping the bombs on Genosha thing, we know that didn't happen. That did not happen on the Extinction Agenda. So he just kind of makes that up, and I'm like, well, why are they nuking Genosha? This doesn't make any sense. Like, it just felt very ham-fisted. Which much of this has to be in order to make it work. Like, it's really like there was an interview with Chris Claremont. Actually, he did it. Ed Piskor and Jim Rugg, if I remember correctly, they were interviewing Chris Claremont, and he was quite open about, like, you can't. There's no continuity here.
Yeah.
It can't be done. And so, you know, Ed faced with that situation where it's clear, like, all you can do is just like cut bits and smash them together and hope nobody notices the shitty joints you've made.
Yeah, you have to distort. You'd have to make a coherent narrative out of the whole X-Men is an impossible task for sure.
Although he mostly does it. I don't want that to get lost. I just, like, every once in a while, throughout all
without doing violence to, like, the the actual history of it.
Yeah, and you see, you guys are way more familiar with Claremont's work and sort of the bigger run of the X-Men. But for me, this actually did improve the X-Men. Like, I took a lot out of this. I took a lot of information I didn't have before. I took a lot of information that I probably wouldn't have been interested in story arc, fashion, and got, like, sort of just like a snapshot of it, and just sort of completed my view of the X-Men through this run. And I think that, like, anybody that wants to know as much as possible about the X-Men, but is just not capable of running through a bajillion issues of Chris Claremont, I'd recommend this. You get what you need. And I think the variances in actual events that did, like you say, have to occur so that they could complete it were pretty minute overall, from what I could see.
It's a primer, right? Like,
it's a primer, but it, like, the map is not the territory. So, James, if you give this book to someone and said, "What's the relationship between Storm and Jean Grey?" How does Colossus feel about Kitty Pryde? What is Cyclops' greatest personal insecurity? Like, these are you're
not going to get any of that.
None of that. And then, so you're not going to get the X-Men at all. You're not going to get you're not going to get a fucking thing out of this book. This is for people who already love the X-Men and just want to see it retold for them. And if it's meant to be a primer for individuals, like, it's a very poor primer, because it has no heart. Like, this has a lot of love but no heart.
Yeah, true. That's very fair.
Wow. Yeah. Strong statement.
Yeah.
But I mean, a lot of love is, like, it comes through in all of it, but, like, none of the soap operatic elements of X-Men, which are core to the Claremont's run, like the gee whiz, holy fuck, what happens next ness of Chris Claremont's X-Men run. Like, you don't, but it's and the irony is like that experience that I just described is what has motivated Piskor to create this project. Like, he obviously is in love with all of that stuff, unable to capture it in the bottle, and like, he gave himself an impossible task, and so we shouldn't be surprised that he failed many aspects of it. Or maybe I'm applying a standard that I shouldn't. It is called X-Men Grand Design, after all, right? And so maybe it's ultimately about architecture and not about character.
I think that's the fairest assessment you can give it. Yeah, I think so. Like, here's the shape fit. Here's a through line to the best that it's possible. The watchers being depressed, like, having to tell this story at the first page, just like, oh, can I do this? Fuck, let's go. Let's record it.
Yeah. I now disclose everything actually, here was the other thing. Everything I've observed about the very extraordinary pantheon of mutants.
Yeah. Speaking of the extraordinary pantheon, I like the fact that you have, like, it's very jarring that old, like, white Nick Fury shows up, but, like, you just have to have him that way to be the racist prick that he is, I guess. Like, just like mutants, fucking muties, just kind of, like, hounding them.
That's funny. Obviously, I didn't think about. I'm very used to like, my thought, like Nick Fury for me is basically, I guess, Ed Brubaker's Nick Fury, but also like 1990s Nick Fury. That's the one that makes sense to me, and the one I'll always like. Samuel L. Jackson never replaced Nick Fury for me. That just didn't happen. So yeah, that's a funny effect. Doesn't surprise me. I wouldn't. I would fully expect a red-blooded American from 1940 to maybe be a little racist.
Honestly, Nick.
Yeah.
Honestly, white guy Nick Fury reminds me of the guy that fucking recruits Rambo.
Oh yeah.
To me, that's basically white guy Nick Fury with an eye patch.
That's totally true.
That's not bad. Yeah. The funny thing about Nick Fury is like he's sort of a James Bond character who Marvel after the 70s kind of like stopped trying with. He just became like a mantelpiece or whatever. But he used to be more of an interesting action hero, like dynamic kind of character. And then he just became like the government establishment stooge throughout the 80s.
Yeah, he kind of like he reminds me of a bit like from a narrative perspective when you're reading stories is like a bit of a master Splinter. It's like he can fight, he trains people, his word, his wisdom, but he doesn't really do anything, and every once in a while he shoots somebody in the back for you, but it's pretty rare.
Yeah, which is different than your Samuel L. Jackson version of Nick Fury, who's actually I can't from the movies he actually doesn't I don't know what the fuck he does. He's just like a spy master, but mostly just gives speeches in a really thunderous tone. Anyway, I'd like to do a little Nick Fury at some point. I mean, I know we have a lot of projects in the hopper, but I'd like to reserve the right one day to, in defense of Nick Fury, we could read about him, the Howling Commando, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah,
sounds like you may be right for a character profile one of these days.
That's right. Yeah. So I don't know. No. Do we have anything more to say about X-Men Grand Design? I'm quite happy if we do. I just I'm not sure.
I don't. I mean, because it's a weird thing to talk about. The one thing, it's just like, I think more than anything, it made me just think about the X-Men as a concept, like with some of their villains and things like that. I did notice that like so many of their early villains are just sort of like weird stalker creeps. Like it's a strange thing. But I'm looking at the panel with Jean Grey, like, and she's like quit the X-Men. And Mastermind is stalking her as a student. He's like trying to seduce her, but he comes to her in the form of like a fucking Poindexter, like drooling nerd who takes her to a Renaissance fair.
And he's like, that's one of those things. Like, where did you get that, Ed Piskor? Like, that can't, like, I know I didn't look at the back thing. Maybe there's a credit somewhere in there, but like, is that the reason that later on when she becomes the Dark Phoenix, she's all like
repressed?
Well, no, but all like 18th century. I know the Renaissance Fair is not the 18th century, but like that old timiness, that like that old time kink that she gets into. Is that the origin of it? Like there are some attempts throughout all of this to delve into the psychology of characters.
Yeah. Well, except and the weird thing is, and even if that's true, like if that's Mastermind's gambit, and he's like really figured her out, like you know what the way to her heart is? The fucking Renaissance Fair. Then the next panel is like she's falling for this like football jock. He's like tousling her hair, and he's just like Mastermind standing there, huh. And then he goes back to report, I may have failed this time, but I'm learning more about her. We'll get her. Yeah. Like that's a weird arc to take.
It is, yeah. And who actually gets a pretty good shake in this is it's a good. I don't think Professor X comes off as a creepy shithead once in this story.
Oh no, he does. I
when
okay. Couple of times. So there's early on, he's like trying to convince Moira that they maybe need to lobotomize Jean Grey because she might be too powerful.
Oh yeah.
And Moira's like, no, that's fucked up. He's like, yeah, you know what? Oh, and then he
He
gets
was like,
that,
I have to. Like,
he gets that girl pregnant, and then he's like, oh, am I influencing her? No, I gotta bail.
I got a jet. Okay, yeah, you're right. Well, you know what? Those are canonical Professor X shitheadery activities. You can't those things have existed for a very, very long time.
No, it's pro Professor. Yeah, he's not going out of his way to make Professor X creepy. He's just sort of like, these are early mistakes, I guess.
This is what he got up to. You know, like add one creep to another. Ed was just like, I understand. You know.
Yeah.
One of the things that, like, early on, again in these early issues, when Professor X is like getting his power, like, or he's starting to, like, he's got Cerebro. I think it's when he gets Cerebro, and he's encountering like Cyclops' fucked up like situation and Jean Grey's situation. His eyes look so concerned. There's a lot of concern in Professor X's eyes throughout this book.
That's true.
Yeah, and so maybe it's even that I'm cottoning on to. Like, you really get the impression that he's troubled, he's confused, he's also trying to help. He has immense power. I
was touched. The one emotional moment. There were actually a few, maybe two, that stood out to me in this book, but I didn't know the origin story, and I don't know if this is a Claremont edition of Jean Grey, where like her friend got run over by the car, and she's like trying to save her or like find her in the astral sphere, and then like he has to go to her and like like you can come back now, basically, like, you know, it's okay, she's gone. Then she has to come out of that coma. And then the other one, sorry.
I think that is a Claremont thing. That is a Claremont sort of like, this is what they're.
Okay, so he's bringing that emotional, because I remember being really surprised by just how depthless those early issues were. Like, they just kind of show up and they're sort of like big teenagers with like no real personality. When I went back, I was like, I'm gonna read this thing for the start. It was weird. So yeah, again, more depth that he brings to it. And then the moment of sacrifice where she's like flying that jet, and she's like, it's like 20 minutes left, the rest of your life, and then she's basically being like vaporized by the Phoenix Force as she's trying to steer them into safety.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
okay.
That was crazy.
So some of the most heartfelt, sort of core emotional moments of Chris Claremont's X-Men run never happened in Chris Claremont's X-Men run. They happened as backup stories to reprints of old X-Men comics in a book called Classic X-Men, and it was a reprint series. And you got some of like the older Claremont stuff, but then you would also have like these little side stories. And I'm looking it up right now. Classic. The artist is escaping me. I won't look it up because it'll just derail everything. But they're beautifully illustrated. They're like maybe 6 to 8 pages. And there's this one story about what happened in the space shuttle. Well, Phoenix was, Jean Grey's trying to pilot it to safety. And it's that whole bargain that she makes with the Phoenix in that moment.
Okay.
And like that whole thing's illustrated in that. Like, and I noticed a lot of those, like a lot of the emotional beats were things that were, some of them only exist as backup stories in those Classic X-Men thing. And yeah,
Ed's read those and is pulling them in, and it's kind of like sorting them into the continuum.
Yeah. That's some of that stuff's there because it's later Claremont looking back at his earlier work, inserting the emotional beats that like he either didn't get a chance to or didn't realize were there at the time, or it's sort of like an emotional retcon a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know when the Annie thing showed up, but I want to go on a limb and say it's maybe one of those uncanny, those Classic X-Men stories. But I'm sure someone out there would would prove me wrong. So anyway, kind of neat.
Mr. Sinister got a pretty good run in this.
Oh yeah. Well,
he's a real creep. We were talking too about the X-Men '97 cartoon too, so we got a little taste of him in there as well. I'm just not clear on what powers he has, except for just being like a pervert.
Mr. Sinister. Yeah,
he's a baby snatcher, and he experiments on babies like they are like rabbits in a shampoo factory. So that's fucked up. But I mean, like, oh man, Mr. Sinister's a tough one for me. I just don't like. I feel like if you're using Mr. Sinister in any type of comic or television rendition, you're rolling the dice. That's fucking weird.
Well, that's what was going on in the '90s. I mean, you were there, I was there, and you can't escape it, man. Sinister knows.
Yeah, he just goes into the wall and says fucking pervy things to you with the light up eyes. That's his power.
I don't care for it myself. There's
so
John Bolton was the artist on the thing. Important. Anyway, Sinister's, he was just part of the aesthetic, the '90s aesthetic of X-Men, of the X-Men cartoon. You know, like they just took whatever was going on at that time and adapted it, and then adapted some of the older stories. And
yeah, so you're saying if you were writing X-Men, you'd avoid Mr. Sinister?
I wouldn't know what to do with him. He's so fucking he's washed out, man. Sinister's fucking played out. That guy needs to take a nap. And
Apocalypse is played out. Sinister's not as bad.
I don't know, man. I don't think so, man. I think there's a lot more in the well of Apocalypse than there is in Mr. Sinister at this point. But like, frankly, they could both go away for a little bit. But if I had to get one, I'd get rid of Mr. Sinister before I'd get rid of Apocalypse.
Yeah. You think there's always room for survival of the fittest rampage?
I think so, or at least some sort of machinations from behind. Like I think there's just too much. Apocalypse is perfect as an X-Men villain.
Yeah.
Because of that survival of the fittest thing, because of that whole like this idea that if we're going to push forward as a material entity, that we have to struggle, and the X-Men are the diametrical opposite of that. No, we need cooperation. No, we need love. We need family. We need to work together.
Yeah, in the same way that Magneto will always be welcome because he represents this sort of like whole other way of approaching existence. I think Apocalypse is like the third sort of route, and I think he can, he should go away for a bit sometimes because like you don't want to keep always hitting that note, but it's going to be fertile territory as long as there's X-Men stories.
Yeah, whereas Mr. Sinister, like you said, James, is a guy with glowy eyes who disappears into the wall. And Chris Claremont's original, like, we've already talked about this, but like Mr. Sinister's original storyline is that he was going to be a fantasy of a small, superpowered mutant child, for whatever reason, like some mutant whose power got away from them, and that's why they look so weird and creepy and are called Mr. Sinister.
Like the Babadook?
Oh wow,
maybe.
Good reference.
That's weird. That would have been a way better choice, and also a lot more fun.
Yeah, but it fits with Claremont's like fascination with like child abductors and like especially late period. Like he was what a guy, man.
He loves a baby snatcher.
We still got to scrape into like
Nathan
Claremont's weirdness. Like there's just it's endless.
Yeah, why didn't Claremont get canceled just by like anyone reading his book?
I would love someday to tackle that Storm Doctor Doom comics because that is some weird shit. That is some weird fetishy shit.
Yeah.
He like traps her in a statue. She's completely immobile, and it's I don't know, man. There's
funny thing is that's like 3 issues.
Yeah.
It's not even like it's just a thing that happens. I think like a couple issues earlier they encounter actual leprechauns. Like things were really fucked back then.
It's true.
I don't know what was. Yeah. So Ed Piskor and X-Men Grand Design. It's a grand design. It if you like the X-Men, like you gotta read this book.
I'm saying it's a good recommend. I think people should check it out. It's a cool thing to see, and it's an oddball event. It's like an oddball thing for a comics creator to do, and so like a true one-off. It's not something you'll experience, and there's not subject material to experience it usually, or anything like it. So yeah.
The funny thing about this is that it kicked off like there's an Incredible Hulk grand design that by Jim Rugg, which I have and which is really cool. It does it's the same fucking trick. And I think it's Tom Scioli did a Fantastic Four version of this. So it created like a little, he opened a space for him and his pals, old Jim Rugg, to get I turned my back on you at the first opportunity.
Oh, Jim's a piece of shit. I think that's the moral of the Ed Piskor story, is that guy's a piece of shit.
Yeah. Fuck you, Jim Rugg. Go fuck your mother.
Now all we need is a little energon and a lot of luck.